Hey, George Washington, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. We're going to wait a few minutes. We're starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight we are simulcast streaming on not just Facebook, X, and YouTube. We're also on Instagram. Instagram, I think the picture is going to be a lot smaller, so you may not see as much of the table. So if I bring stuff in, I'll have to bring it in a little bit closer. But on YouTube and Facebook, you should be able to see the whole table. So we'll give it a few minutes. Joey's detecting. Where can I obtain that book? So this book is a book that I wrote with E.J. Snyder from the show Naked and Afraid, and you can find it on Amazon. If you want to find it quicker, you can go to the link in my bio. So there's a link in my bio everywhere on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X, and the link to that book is in the bio. Or if you go just directly to Amazon, you can just type in E.J. Snyder, and you should be able to find it. I'll show you guys a little closer up. Written by E.J. Snyder and the Survival Summit. This was actually based on a film that I produced with starring E.J. called Ultimate Bug-In and Home Defense, which is available on our website. Hello, Deborah. Deborah says, hello, I really need to hear this. Let's see. We're going to wait a few more minutes because I told everyone 7, so I don't want to jump the gun too much. Yeah, I think Instagram's the only platform where you're going to see a very narrow view of this stream. So if you're looking for, a widescreen, you can go to YouTube or Facebook or an X too, I believe. Yeah, this book came out in October. I think it was October 1st of this year. And I believe EJ and I are going to work on another book as well. This book was like the film, Ultimate Bug-In and Home Defense, but it was missing. We didn't put in a lot of, like the 5 Ds of home defense. We left out a lot of the defense because we're planning on writing a second book to go with this one. We have not done that yet. I did jump on TikTok because for those of you who've never been here before, we've been streaming on TikTok for a few weeks, or at least 14 or 15 days in a row, and I plan on streaming on here from now on all the time. TikTok is too restrictive. They don't like it when you mention anything other than the TikTok shop. Like, you can't even tell them, hey, I have a friend who runs, a good survival school, and here's the website, or go to the link in my bio. You actually get violations for that. But TikTok's probably going to disappear anyway, so I guess it really doesn't matter. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. It's unfortunate. Good evening, Montana Sky. How you doing? Because we have about 478,000 followers on TikTok, so it's by far the biggest platform for us, at least right now. I wonder if my moderator is in here. Mr. Moderator, are you in here? I do not see him so far. I actually have to make him a moderator, if I can remember how to do that. Once he gets in here, once he gets into chat, I'll keep an eye out for him. It's just about 7, but we'll give it a couple more minutes because I think there's some people that are coming in also from TikTok. And I did tell them pretty much 7 o'clock on the dot, and it's basically 7 on the dot. But we'll give them a couple more minutes. If you guys are new here, put in the chat where you are from. I'm not from here, but I'm currently in northern Vermont for the next 14 days. And then I'll be back home probably on the weekend after. And then I'll be here probably in Vermont for the next, probably till August, maybe September. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm hoping some people that used to be on it or still are on an old Discord server that I'm not actually on anymore, I'm hoping that they show up on here and check out the stream. Oh, by the way, if you missed last night's stream, we went over all the electronics. We went over power banks, satellite phones. We went over handheld GPS. We talked about maps. We talked about topo maps. We talked about backup cell phones with a lightning to USB adapter. And then we talked about USBs that have thousands of survival manuals on them just in a small USB. So that way you don't have to keep a ton of books or have a bunch of books that you need to take with you if you have to go from your primary location to your alternate location. You're going to hear me talk a lot about PACE planning. PACE is an acronym, and it stands for P is your primary, A is your alternate, C is your contingency, and E is your emergency. So I mentioned it yesterday when a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to bug out. that means go live in the woods. That is absolutely not what that's supposed to mean. That should be the drop dead last ditch if everything, your primary failed, your alternate failed, your contingency failed, and now you're on your emergency. You should preferably have caches en route with extra food, water, ammo, whatever you think you're going to need if you have to move from point A to point B or from point B to point C. Things like that. And if we have a good video on YouTube that explains what does it mean to bug out, and it's pretty comprehensive and it goes over a ton of different details. I really wanted my moderator on just so I can see where everyone's coming from. Last time I tried to check on the back end, I didn't mute the desktop audio, and I was playing the stream to see who was from which platform, and it got crazy. Like, you could hear all the streams at the same time. People weren't very appreciative of that. Didn't really go so well. But the good thing about in here is the multi-stream chat. I can see whoever is chatting, which platform they're coming from. So far, everyone that's been chatting has come from YouTube. And I can see total viewership, but I can't see exactly which platform they're coming from. I think my moderator might have forgot about me. I'm going to shoot him a text and find out where he is exactly. Let's see. Where you at, mod? I need him to come on so I can actually make him a moderator. On TikTok, it was easy because he's a set moderator. But now that we're on Streamlabs OBS and we're simulcasting on all the different social media, I need to make him a moderator in here specifically. Or he could always go down into he's my son. He can always go down into the basement and log into all the socials, and he can keep track of it down there also. It's a little easier. So tonight we'll probably talk a little bit about the book, kind of some of the stuff that's in it. I don't have all the electronics. If you do want to see the stream from yesterday, it was almost 3 hours. So there is a ton of information. And the beauty about Streamlabs OBS is that when you do go live, and especially if you go live on every platform, you can go on our YouTube or our Facebook or our X, because those are the only three we were streaming on last night, and you can watch the entire stream from the beginning to the end. And it's probably cool that way because you can go back if you want to learn specifically about like putting the survival manuals on a USB, what connectors you need for the iPhone, how to hook it up to the iPad, all the different information that was in that stream. You can go back and watch it on every platform except for Instagram. And then I don't know if Instagram also saves these streams, but we'll find out when the stream is over. I'll see if it also saved on Instagram. So really the only place I'm not streaming right now is TikTok. One, because they're too restrictive. Two, they don't give out streaming codes to just anybody. You have to basically send them information about other places that you stream, and then they have to give you permission and then send you the streaming URL and then the streaming code or whatever it's called. It's a little bit annoying. All right, we got Johnny Boy watching from Oregon. Joey D's detecting. I was just watching from both YouTube and Instagram. Oh, nice. Let's see. All right, I know there's more people in there. There's at least 20 people in here. Where are you from? Last night we had a lot of people. Actually, I want to do an experiment first. I'm going to see, because I muted the desktop audio, so I'm going to open up X, Twitter, and I am going to see if you guys can hear it in the background if I have it muted. I'm just curious. All right, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you hear a lot of weird stuff going on, like there's two streams playing. I have it muted both on X's backend and here in Streamlabs OBS, so it should be okay. This will be a way where I'll be able to tell, because right now it looks like there's 8 people from X. I'm going to open up Facebook, and hopefully I can mute that quickly so you don't hear any feedback. Yep, I definitely got to do that. All right, so I muted that, which I don't know if you would have been able to hear it anyway, because I have it muted in here. All right, let me jump back. Looks like we have Facebook. We have 136,000 on Facebook, but we only have 2 viewers from Facebook. Kind of strange. Facebook hasn't been that great for the live so far. This is only the second one, so we'll give it time. All right, let's see. I'm going to go to one more. I'm I'm going to go to the YouTube channel just to pull that up. And that did not work at all. I clicked the wrong thing. Let me click mute just to make sure that you guys don't hear it. I know you can hear that. All right, we should be good. And now why can't I see the viewer count in here, though? That's the question. I can see you guys in the chat, but I can't see how many viewers are active in here. It's a little bit strange. I can see it on Facebook. I can see it on X. I guess it doesn't matter. What's the difference, right? I can see all of your chat, though. Paul Damaris, I'm probably saying that wrong. It's time to abolish a terrorist, tyrannical government and delete the satanic pedophile elites. Enough treason, murder, and genocide. I would have to say that would be accurate. And I think a lot of that is going to start happening come January 20th. We'll see. Let's hope. All right, Paul is coming from Facebook. If you guys want... Oh, hold on. I think my moderator is texting me now. Oh, he's watching on YouTube on his phone. So it might be... Put something in the chat, moderator, because I need to make you a mod in here, and I have to do it through Streamlabs. Oh, he just finished working out. That's why. So if you want, tonight, Ohio. Paul is from Ohio. I think the only place I've been to in Ohio was Toledo, and it wasn't a very good area. That was when I was young. I think I was a teenager. So again, real quick, if you want to see yesterday's stream where we went through a ton of electronics, you can go back on YouTube or any of the other channels, and you can still watch it. It's about 3 hours long. Tonight, we may go through... This is not my regular bug-out bag setup. This is my summer bug-out bag setup. If I'm going to do the winter... So I have a winter bug-out bag, which is a lot heavier. I carry everything in an ice fishing sled. Thomas here, YouTube is super delayed. Okay. I'll have to figure it out another time, Thomas, to figure out how to make you a mod. I can go on the back end and I can look at all the platforms anyway, so if I need to change something or do whatever, I can do it. But I guess compared to Twitter, apparently YouTube has a much bigger delay. It's probably because YouTube is checking to make sure we don't say anything dumb. That could be why. Yeah, because I can't do anything with your name in here on the multi-stream chat, Thomas. I can click names on... Well, no, I guess I can't on... I'll have to figure it out. Streamlabs OBS is only the second time I've ever used it, so this is brand new for me. So anyway, like I was saying, my main bug-out bag is in the winter because of the wool blanket. There will be a bunch of other items. It's a lot heavier. It's in, 30-something pounds, so I pull it in an ice fishing sled. And then I have separate gear and a dry bag and some other things specifically for the winter. And that one is way too much stuff to put on this table, but at some point I'll bring it back in and we'll go through it and we'll just kind of put stuff on the table and then get it behind us so we have more space. But tonight we will probably go over my summer bag. Now I mention it in every stream and I'm kind of disappointed in myself because I said at some point I was going to show you my training gear. Because most of the gear that I use, if I'm out, either we're doing filming or I'm out training or just practicing, I use a completely different setup. All my bug-out bag gear is almost new, although yesterday's stream there was some wood in the silky saw, so I apparently use the silky saw at some point. But most of this stuff in here is unused because in a survival situation, I want to make sure my blade is not dull on the saw. I don't have to immediately sharpen my knife, things like that. My normal kit, like my single-wall stainless steel bottle, it's charred to hell. But it's because I use it. The stuff in here, most of it's new. And this bag I don't even use in the winter at all. This is just strictly my summer bag. Paul says mine is 65 pounds, not including ammo in the seed feeder. Wow, that's a heavy bag. I'd wonder, Paul, how far do you think you could travel in that? Some people can walk a pretty good distance with a ton of weight, but some people... If they've never done it, they're pretty shocked at how short of an amount they can walk with a lot of gear. I'm in decent shape, but I wouldn't want to carry a 65-pound pack if I could help it. In the summer, my pack's 12. We weighed it yesterday. It's 12 pounds. In the winter, it's more like 35, but that's mainly because of the wool blanket and some of the heavier items like that. And my summer kit, so you're going to hear a lot. The more training you have, the less gear you need. My summer kit is a lot of the Boss supplemental kits, which we sell on our website. They're not top-of-the-line gear. They're more like mid-range gear, but they're a lot cheaper. My main Bugout bag is probably at least $1,200, maybe more. It's probably more than that. David Werner, yes, that's me. Wait, that name sounds familiar. Are you from Static Trading by any chance, or am I thinking of someone else? Kyle Merchant, hello, sir, from Maine. Last time I was in Maine, I was with Graybearded Green Beret. It's for those of you that know him, and we didn't produce it, but I was there when he filmed his winter skills course, which we actually added to our website as online streaming about 2 weeks ago. And we were out there for about 4 days. Two nights in a row. Well, we're going to be on every night, basically. And when we were streaming on TikTok, I think we streamed for, I want to say 14 or 15 days in a row. At least. Something like that. And then they got a little too restrictive, so we jumped off of TikTok. I did go on tonight just to let everyone know that I would be here. I'll probably get penalized for that because I'm not supposed to do that. But I said, don't come to my other platforms at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because you're not supposed to tell people that. But I still told them in a backwards way. Anyway. Yeah, I plan to be on pretty much every night. Even if it's just to have discussions, go through questions, just kind of, BS. David Warren, no, I asked about nuclear testing of Faraday bags. You called me a smartass. Well, that's not surprising for the people that know me. I knew your name looked familiar. I have a terrible memory, by the way. You could have made something up and said that you were somebody else, and I'd be like, oh, cool. And I'd have no idea. I'd completely forget. Yeah, Kyle, I'll tell you, those 4 days we were out there, I want to say we spent 20 to 25% of the 4 days we were out there literally just collecting, dead standing, anything we could use to start fires. But unfortunately, the only person who got to be in front of the fire because he was the star of the film was Graybeard Green Beret. So we were all, especially at night, we were in the dark behind the cameras and the lights while he was in front of the fire basically the whole time. So we're back there just freezing. David Werner, okay, I'm somebody else. It's too late, because now I know. But I usually don't have a filter. I just kind of say what I think. Maybe I should not do that all the time. Might be better. Who knows? I'm still hoping that I get a couple people from the old Discord in here, but I kind of told somebody last second, like not even 5 minutes before this stream started, so. Oh, you'll see I have a crap load of these heavy-duty carabiners on here. I had them in my house, and when I left to come up to Vermont, I didn't want to forget them, so I just strapped them to this bag. I don't always have them on here. Actually, I should take them off, because if we end up going through this stuff. These aren't bad. They're pretty decent. They're not used for climbing. They're just used for gear. So if I want to put miscellaneous stuff on a pack, I can have the carabiners to make it easier. And they're nice and big, so it kind of helps out. I also use them on my truck because I have some pretty big ratchet straps that don't actually fit on the hooks in the back of the pickup truck. So if you get a really good carabiner, you can clip this in the slots in the back of a pickup truck, and then you can put the big hook for the really big straps will fit in the carabiner, so you don't have to worry about it. The yellow ones are just too big, and the hook doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in all the way. Thomas, have you seen any of the people from TikTok at all? Not so far. I don't think I have, actually. And it's unfortunate because when I was on TikTok for about 10 minutes before this stream, there was like 80 to 130 people that were on there, which is, a lot more than we have on here right now. But hey, this is only the second simulcast on all the platforms. And I really wish TikTok wasn't so restrictive because other than that, it's a great platform to do this, I think. Let's see. I'm just checking through Yeah, we have 9. Last night we had, I think, 30 on X. 30 people that were coming from Twitter. Facebook's only a couple. Instagram's a couple. And YouTube, there's about 12. It's still early. We'll still get some more people on. That's kind of why I'm waiting a little bit before we really start going through the gear. I just want to make sure that some of the people that were on TikTok, Paul says TikTok banned me 4 times now. Yeah, they definitely don't like the truth at all. But Facebook apparently is getting rid of their version of the Ministry of Truth, and they're going to start doing things different. They're going to start using community notes like they do on X, and they're going to stop trying to police anything and everything unless it's something that's dangerous. So we'll see. We'll see if that goes the way they say it's going to go. If it does, that'd be great. Kyle Merchant, I finally got my GMRS license, but I like to know better, GMRS or ham. I am not a ham expert by any means. We do have a film called Survival Communications where one of the film experts, this is back in 2016, I believe, he goes over a lot of that stuff in that film. That's available as streaming or on USB thumb drive. But there's probably a ton of guys on YouTube that are really, really big experts when it comes to ham radio and basically anything communications. But I, unfortunately, am not that guy. I do have a guy, Nino, that if you were on any of the TikTok streams, you would have seen him. Nino is kind of the resident expert in terms of off-road / bug-out vehicles. He basically knows almost every type of vehicle that's the best for off-roading. He himself drives pretty much Land Rovers. Nino's Land Rover Defender is the one on the cover of the book, and it's on the cover of the film. He was nice enough to drive up from Connecticut to, I don't remember what town it was. We were somewhere outside of Pittsburgh. And he was nice enough to drive up and let us use his vehicle in the film. And then we took the screenshot from the film, and it made it on the cover of the book. So, pretty sweet. And again, the link to this book, there's a link in the bio of all the social media. So if you guys want to check it out, you can go check that out. Unlike TikTok, who doesn't like us pointing you to other places, we can do that here, so it's much better. They really only want you to point people to the TikTok shop, but there's a lot of crappy products on the TikTok shop. There's also a lot of great ones. And some of them that are on there, like Practical Survival, they're a really good company. I know those guys. There's another company that makes the potassium iodide pills. That's another good company. They also sell it on Amazon. I have about 3 products in my bio that are not products on the website. I make a very small commission. And everyone asks me, people that I know ask me, why do you do that? Why do you do anything with affiliates for other people's products when you sell 100 products on your own website and you make all the profit from those sales? Well, because I don't sell some of the products that are linked on Amazon, but I still think they're good products, and I think they're good people, and they're good companies. So if I can make a small percentage instead of making full retail on one of my own filters that I sell, I don't care. This isn't a zero-sum game for me. I'm not just going to box everyone out and try to only make money for myself at full cost of the gear I sell. And I push products all the time that I have nothing to do with. I mean, hell, Survival Summit, I said it last night, Survival Summit, for the first 7 years it existed, out of the 10 that we've been around, we pushed all kinds of products, and we didn't even sell gear, and we didn't do anything with affiliates. We did nothing like that. All we made was instructional films. So the people that have known us for a while, hopefully by now, can trust us that if we're going to push you towards a product, we're not just doing it to make a buck. We're doing it because we believe in the product, and we're doing it because the instructors we've worked with making films over the years are really, really big fans of the gear, and they've field tested it a lot, and they know that whatever we're pushing is going to be pretty rugged gear. All right, so I will go through my main bug out bag. Not tonight. It could be in the next couple days. I have to figure that out. I might have to bring a different setup in here to get a longer table, pull the camera back a little bit, and try to figure it out. This rental house that I'm in Vermont is pretty small. I think the whole house is like 750 square feet. So it's not very big. I have a lot more room at home, which is where I streamed from yesterday. Kyle Merchant, if I was going to put 2 knives in my bug out bag, which one would you choose? So my favorite My favorite knife that I like for survival and bushcraft, I have a couple. One of them is the Mora Garberg Carbon Black. You can get the Mora Garberg that's not carbon black. That's a Scandi grind. It's good for a lot of the things I would use it for. I also have, and people hate it when I talk about this knife because you can't even get it. It only came out with one run. This one's made by Tops, but it wasn't ever sold on Tops. It was made by Perseverance Survival. If you guys ever knew the guy from Perseverance Survival, I think he's a Marine Corps officer still, and he came up with the Whoopee hoodie before anybody else did. So before you started seeing it all over the market, the original Whoopee hoodie was from Perseverance Survival. He also had a really, really good escape and evasion kit, including these little round, they look like marbles, but they were really good glass breaks. He stopped selling most of that E&E gear, and he only made one production run of the knife, which was very disappointing because they sold out very quickly. I actually need to clean this one up a little bit. Put it to a leather strop. It's got a little bit of stuff on it. I don't use it that often, but so this one is the Perseverance Survival. It's almost, other than the belly, it's almost similar to like Tops Knives Brothers of Bushcraft. I don't own one, but I hear Essie Knives, ESEE, are also a good brand. There's a lot of really good knives out there. But it also depends. Are you looking for a fighting knife? Are you looking for a bushcraft knife? You know, what kind of grind do you want? Depending on the knife, they might be easier to sharpen. They might be more difficult to sharpen. Certain tasks, you might want a different blade. It can get really, really in-depth when it comes to knives. But I love the Mora Garberg. The Mora Bushcraft Black is decent. But the Mora Garberg Carbon Black, I think, is one of the best knives out there. And then the Perseverance Survival knife as well as the Brothers of Bushcraft. But man, there's so many different knives out there and so many different knife manufacturers. It's pretty hard to choose. It really is. There's a lot of new companies too that are, really putting out a lot of good gear. Hey, Steph. Hey, Jesse, Mike and I are watching. Hey, why did I not see that chat in my overall? That's weird. I can see the comments from Facebook, also from YouTube, but for some reason I'm not seeing them from Instagram. That's kind of strange. I might have to pop open Instagram and every once in a while and take a look. That is very strange. Hey, Steph, if you guys are watching on Instagram, you should probably watch on Facebook or on YouTube because you can see the widescreen version of this video. If you're on Instagram, you're probably seeing a very short version. So anybody who's on Instagram, if you want to put something in the chat, I may not see it because for whatever reason, I'm not seeing Instagram comments here in the multi-stream chat on Streamlabs OBS for whatever reason. So Kyle, I hope that answered your question. Kyle, what kind of knife do you use right now? Just out of curiosity. That's kind of unfortunate that I have to go back to Instagram to look at comments now. I don't know why the comments aren't connected. Oh well, what are you going to do? And every platform, I think, has a different delay as well. All right, well, I already showed you guys one of my favorite knives. I don't know which one I like more. I don't know if I like the Mora Garberg more than I like the Perseverance Survival knife. You still might be able to find these if somebody's selling them, but I think he only made 100 or 150 of them. He said he was going to come out with another run, but he never did. Nino418, the beard is in high def on YouTube. Is it? I think I'm only running 1080. Does your 12-pound summer bag include a tarp or a cover element? Yes, and I'm going to go through that, and I'll show you. It is not a high-quality tarp. It's like middle of the road, but it'll be good enough. That's the other thing, especially in the summer or when it's nice and warm out. Skills are going to be a lot more important because you can build a pretty good shelter without even needing a tarp. Obviously, a tarp is more efficient and you can build it more quickly just to get out of the elements. Kyle Merchant says, I use PSK. It's the KSP K-part knife from Dave Canterbury. Yeah, Dave's got a lot of, I think Dave makes those knives himself, actually, in his shop. Pretty sure he makes them himself. Or he may have a couple people that help him out with it. But yeah, the Perseverance Survival Knife is a really excellent blade. Of course, it's made in the USA. We made a film with Tops Knives called Tops Knives Blade Care. That's also available as streaming or on USB on our website. It kind of goes through their production facility and kind of shows you how they make the knives, the ways they like to take care of them, you know, all kinds of stuff. It's not a super long film, but it's a good one. All right, so that was the knife. This table's small. I'm just going to have to start stacking this stuff kind of out of the way, I think. So on the outside of this pack, I keep other items like the Gen 7 cat tourniquet, made by North American Rescue, made in the USA. These guys supply the U.S. military with pretty much, if not all, of their medical gear. Be very, very careful. I say it a lot. Yeah, Nino says that's a good-looking survival book you got there. He's only saying that because his vehicle is on the cover. That Defender is his, which apparently he put a new engine in, and I haven't seen it yet. So I got to catch up with Nino because we're going to do some off-roading. We're going to make some videos on recovery gear. So if you get stuck off the road, we're going to show you how he uses the winch, recovery straps, all kinds of cool stuff. But that's probably not going to happen until the spring. Kyle Merchant, I want to get my hands on two knives. One is the SE6 and the Moore-Garberg. Yeah, definitely the Moore-Garberg Carbon Black. We sell them on the website, but I don't even know if we have any in stock. If we do, there's only like one in stock. And we have a bunch of the Bushcraft Black knives in stock. I think there's one more of the carbon in stock. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look. So anyway, the Gen 7 cat, some of the other good ones are the Sam XT. You can use the Rats tourniquets. I like them. Some people don't like them. They don't have a windlass, so they're not quite as good. Please, and I say this every stream because I don't want people to know, do not buy. If you go to buy one of these tourniquets and you paid less than like $30 to $35, you probably bought a Chinese knockoff that's a piece of crap. The windlass is not the same quality material. The windlass can break easier, and that's a really important piece of the tourniquet. The stitching is also not done correctly, and it's not tested, and sometimes even the nylon is not that good. If you spend $4, $10, $15, I saw some on Amazon and the TikTok shop that were like $4. You might as well just let yourself go. You might as well just, let the blood pump out of your body. Because those tourniquets have failed. They failed in the field. They actually had a problem in the military where I think there was a group in the Army that had bought, I think their procurement office had bought a bunch of the knockoffs, and I think they had issues with them failing. I actually believe that one of the departments of the government was actually looking, because I think they were going after, trying to figure out where they got them from, because they're very, very dangerous. Kyle Merchant, he says he loves the soft tee. I hear good things about the soft tee. I don't actually own one, but I think there's a few guys that I do know that do have the soft tee. David Werner, don't use cheap tourniquets. Yeah, spend at least $30 for the quality ones. Medical gear is not something you want to cheap out on. You just don't want to do it, especially with a tourniquet. If you have an arterial bleed and your tourniquet fails or your windlass snaps, you're going to have a big problem. Some people, maybe they can use their belt, but there's no way to keep it tight. It's just not as easy as you would think, especially if there's blood all over the place. You want a real, legitimate tourniquet. Please don't cheap out on medical gear. If you can help it, don't ever cheap out on medical gear. All right, let's see. So I typically don't carry a membrane straw in the winter, but this one has a lanyard, so if I use this in the winter, if it gets wet, you don't want it to freeze. Some companies say, they can do a freeze thaw once or twice, but don't do it, because if the membrane cracks, you're never going to know it until it's too late, and you're crapping all over the place because you drank bad water. But this one, if you're going to use it in the winter, if you don't want it to freeze, put the lanyard around your neck, put it inside your shirt against your skin, under all your gear and your coats, and it won't freeze. Or you could stick it down your pants if you really wanted to. But you're better off using a single wall stainless steel bottle to boil your water in the winter. Another thing about boiling water in the winter, don't waste time trying to boil snow or trying to boil it down to water, because basically, I think the mathematical formula is like 10 to 1 or 12 to 1. So if you take a foot of snow and you melt that, it's only going to melt to about an inch of water. Whereas if you take a foot of ice, it's going to melt to a foot of ice. So in the winter, you're better off boiling, and don't use an insulated bottle because the insulated bottles can explode on the fire because they have that air gap in between. I say it all the time. Some people are like, oh, just poke holes in it and you'll be fine. Well, why would you do that? You can buy a single wall stainless steel bottle. Like this one's the Pathfinder version, and they're not expensive. They're very cheap. So you want to have one of these in the winter all the time. Tahoe Blaze says, I saw a YouTuber test a bunch and they failed. I personally have a kit from Refuge Medical. Yeah, the really bad tourniquets are just, I honestly don't even know why they sell them. I don't know how it's not criminal that they're selling tourniquets that really haven't been tested and are not, in a lot of cases, may not save a life. And that false sense of security is a big problem. Anyway, this here is the Practical Survival water straw. It's kind of like a life straw. I think it's a little better. These will do 1,800 gallons, and they now come with a plunger, so you can back flush. If you back flush these, obviously use clean water. You can boil water, let it cool, and then you'll put your plunger on the side you're sucking out of, and it back flushes the filter. You also want to make sure that you're going to use either a shamag or a t-shirt or one of those little canvas bushcraft bags to get as many particulates out of the water as you can, especially if you're pulling from like a muddy, something where there's a lot of mud. You don't want to get all that nasty stuff in your filter, so you want to try to get the water to be as clean as you can before you use the filter. I do have a link in the bio to these, and I think they're really good. You can also screw in a bottle, but unfortunately not all bottles, I believe it's a 28 millimeter, like the Poland Springs will fit, but not super tight, but it works well enough where you'll be able to drink using the bottle. There's a couple other types of water bottles that fit much tighter, but really any standard 16-ounce bottle you can still use with this. It doesn't come with the bag, those bags that the Sawyer Minis have, but you don't really need it. You can direct, especially you really need to have a PACE plan, even with your water. So when I talk about PACE, for those who didn't hear it before, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. Not just for bugging out and bugging in. PACE plan, my PACE plan for water, my primary would be my tap water or water in your house. What's my alternate? My alternate is either going to be a filter, most likely a filter. My contingency, probably my stainless steel to boil water. What's my emergency? Maybe my emergency is transpiration bags on trees or, doing the same thing, using the sun, dig a hole in the ground. I think I'll make a video at some point outside when it's nice out and show you guys to dig the hole, put the cup in the center, put a nice piece of plastic on top with a rock in the middle with one, and then when the condensation, you put a bunch of greenery in the hole, and when the sun starts to heat it up, that water starts dripping in the cup. That's basically passive water collecting, but you want to do that in a whole bunch of areas. Same with a transpiration bag on the trees. You're going to want to do that with more than a few bags because it's going to take hours and you're going to get a very small amount of water. One thing to note, do not use poisonous plants when you're doing that. But at some point, we'll go outside and we'll do a couple streams. I won't be able to simulcast those streams, so maybe I'll just do videos instead. Most of this stuff that I'm talking about, we've done videos about in the past, and you can find them pretty much on all of our social media. So anyway, that is the Practical Survival straw. And it just came out with the plunger. So if you have one from before, the newer one, they did a lot of testing after they put the plunger on it. And it used to be 1,000 gallons that they say you could get. Now it's 1,800. And based on how much water you would be drinking a day, that's probably going to last you at least, I'm trying to remember what the number is on the average amount of water people use. I think it can last you about 10 years. But realistically, unless you're using perfectly crystal clear water, it's probably not going to last you that long because it's going to get dirty even with the back flushing. So one other thing you can do is if you want to have clean water that's dirty and you don't have a shamag or you don't want to use a shirt or you don't have one of those nice canvas bushcraft bags to use, you can take something like a bottle or anything you find out in the woods If you're really good and you can make a container out of birch bark, that would be even better. Then you don't need to look for trash wherever you are. But you would basically take layers, sand, rocks, greenery, do a few layers, put your water through there, and then put it in your container, and that'll take pretty much all the particulates out. You're just making your own filter. You can even put a little bit of charcoal from your fireplace. It won't be activated charcoal, so it's not going to take out pathogens, but it's good enough to get the water clean either before you boil it or before you use your filter. I like to use my filters as a backup and try to boil everything in the bottle. All right, let me make sure. I'm just going to check some questions. I've got to go on Instagram to look at those. All right, I think we're good over there. All right, so next up, one of my favorite saws. Silky is my favorite brand. I think it's one of the best saws on the market. This is the new Silky saw, the Silky Outback. This one can actually cut through bone as well, but these Silky saws are amazing, and they really cut like butter. They cut so well. We had a film where we were taking down a bunch of trees, and we cut them so nice. People actually thought we used a chainsaw when they saw the certain videos. They're like, no, you guys used a chainsaw to cut all that. But these Silky saws, they cut on the pull, they don't cut on the push, but they're super, super smooth. They have small ones they call the Pocket Boy. We do sell these Silkies on our website as well, so if you're looking for one, you can go check them out. It's just thesurvivalsummit.com. But again, the link to our website is in our bio and all social media. Or you can just get it from Amazon direct. You can get it wherever you want. You don't have to buy stuff from us. But this is the 240 teeth. This is a really, really, really nice saw. I sent this to a friend of mine. I probably shouldn't mention her name, but I sent it to a friend of mine who you may have seen on TV before in the fight world. And she texted me and said, this is the greatest saw that I've ever had in my life. This thing is amazing. So if you don't own a Silky saw, we don't sell the big ones, but you can get huge Silky saws that you can take down you can cut up some serious campfire wood with, the really big Silky saws. So Silky, I think it's an amazing brand. If you don't own one, you need to get one and try it out. Trying to figure out where to toss this stuff so it's easier to get tomorrow when I have to clean it all up. All right, let's see what else I got in here. Start systematically going through the pack. This pack I packed really tight the other day. So in my front pocket, I keep some fire items. I'm not even going to show you my compass. It's a piece of crap. I usually use a Sun2 MC2, but right now I lost one and I only have one, so it's in my winter bug-out bag, which is what I currently have in my vehicle. And I just have a cheap little backup compass because I'm not using this pack. I only use this, when the weather's warm enough where it's not going to go below freezing. So I'll just take my Sun2 MC2 and put it in this pack when I go to change bags. Because in the winter, my entire bug-out bag setup sits in the basement. I mean, in the summer, in the spring, my winter bag sits in the basement because I basically have... But sometimes I will take either the stuff from my training bag or I'll put in a Rush 12, a 511 Rush 12, sometimes a Rush 24. I'll take out some of the better gear and I'll put it in the Rush 12 and I'll use that in the spring and summer depending on where I'm going, where I'm traveling. Generally speaking, as long as you cover all your needs, your core needs, which are shelter, fire, water, food, you can call your bag whatever you want. You can call it a get-home bag, you can call it a bug-out bag. They all should cover your needs. Then you need signaling, land navigation, general tools. Those are all things that you need as a person to survive, no matter the length of time. So whatever you want to call your bag doesn't make a difference. That's the way I see it anyway. All right, I guess I'm going to start tossing this stuff on the floor. So I like to keep my medical and my fire items in the front pouch because they're a little bit easier to get to. Tahoe Blaze, what's your preferred compass? That would be the Sun2 MC2. If you go on our website with the link in the bio, we only sell two compasses. One of them is the Sun2 A30, which is kind of a cheaper, but it's still decent. But the second one, the MC2, is the one that I prefer. The only difference is I think I bought the 1 in 25 version, and I really wanted the 1 in 50. But that really is based on, just make sure when you get a topo map, you get the right scale on the topo map. And you should have a protractor as well. I have one in this bag. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. I also have another compass in this bag by Brunton, but it's part of the Boss Survival Kits. It's not top of the line. It's not as good as the Sun 2, but it's still a really good compass. But I'll show you that when we get to that kit. So this right here is the Craftig. This is the 5-inch. They have a 5-inch and an 8-inch. This is a ferrocerium rod. Craftig is one of the best ferro rods that I've ever used. There's one more brand that's really good, but I can't recall the name of that brand. We don't carry that. We only carry the Craftig. This is really soft. It throws off really intense sparks, and it throws a lot of sparks. The ones you buy cheap on Amazon or eBay, they're typically a little harder, and they're not as good, or they're too soft, and they're not as durable. Uberleben, which is a U.S. company, don't let the name fool you, they make one of the most badass ferro rods that you can get a hold of. These are awesome. And they have a scraper that comes with them. So I love the Uberleben products. Speaking of Uberleben, this is a Stoker stove. This is a waxed canvas case with Velcro. We also sell these on the site. Or you can get them direct from Uberleben too. Again, it doesn't matter where you get your stuff as long as you get quality stuff and as long as you get it from a reputable company. So this is basically a flat pack stove. I'm not going to put it together. I showed one the other day, and it was one from my training kit, and it was charred so bad, like you couldn't really see much of the, well, you're not going to be able to see the stuff written on there anyway, but Uberleben's it's 304 stainless steel. They got a nice American flag on there. But basically this stove goes together in a little square. The thing I like about this stove the most, and you can check back some of our videos on pretty much all the channels, it'll create a really good amount of heat coming out of the top and the sides with a very minimal amount of wood. And you just feed the wood through. Like you don't even have to cut it up. Once you get your tinder in there and you get the fire going with enough kindling, you can take like whatever log fits through this hole and you can feed it through. And it'll burn, and then as it burns, as it goes to ash, you just feed in the rest of the stick the whole time. It's a lot easier if you're going to cook something when you're out there and you don't want to make, a nice big circular fire and go through the hassle. Just use one of these stoves, and you'll use much less wood, and it'll be much easier to maintain, easier to clean up. I think these flat pack stoves are amazing. They make one in titanium as well, but I don't know if they're not much lighter. You're barely going to notice the difference, so I don't know. And I don't know durability-wise if it's really going to matter. But the titanium is a lot more expensive than the stainless, so I usually just stick with the stainless. So anyway, that is the flat pack stove. I take this one everywhere. I also have one in my regular kit. So even though I said I have supplemental gear in the spring and summer bag, which you're going to see all of it soon, I still like to keep some of the better items in here, like the Silky, the knife, the medical gear, and even the flat pack stove. All right. One other thing I keep in here. Now, keep in mind, potassium iodide pills, which is what these are. There is a link in our bio for these too. It's a good company on Amazon. These are basically KI pills, so they protect you from radiation. They protect your thyroid. The one thing you should remember, if typically, and you want to ask your doctor, obviously, when it comes to anything like this, don't listen to anything I say. Talk to your own physician as far as when you would need to take them, information about whether you shouldn't take them. I can't give you any of that information. You really need to speak to your own doctor. But I will say, typically if you're over 40, I don't even think you would need them. And if you live anywhere in a certain range of a nuclear power plant, I believe cities and towns that are close enough to a nuclear power plant give them away to people who live close within a certain mile radius. You can get them for free. So you don't even need to buy them if you live near a nuclear power plant. So before you buy them, go check and see if you can actually get them from your local municipality for free. But these are good. These are from a company called Nutri. So if you use the link in the bio, we do get a small commission from that. But these are, under 40, women, children, things like that. Especially now with all the crazy stuff going on with, Russia and Ukraine and in the Middle East. I'd be worried about someone sneaking in a dirty bomb or someone trying to, get a nuclear weapon into one of the cities. It's just something to be aware of. If you have to leave town because you're too close to where there might be fallout or the fallout's being carried, through a storm, you want to make sure you're taking potassium iodide pills to protect yourself. So next up, this is just a cravat, basically a triangular bandage. I have a couple of these. They're really handy. You can make a sling. You can also use these if you want to keep some of the particulates out of your filter. So they work in that regard as well. I have a bunch of cotton balls. Multi-use. But I don't do the old school cotton balls and Vaseline because it's very messy. You got to put it in a Ziploc bag. And I don't know if I have any in here or not, but I have Tinder tabs that are really small. And we sell those too. They're basically treated cotton and they're waterproof. And they're not like sticky. You don't have to worry. You can just put them in your pocket and you can start a bunch of fires with more than one tab if you have a good tinder pile. So I typically like to use those. This pace counter actually goes to one of the Boss supplemental kits, so I'll show you that after. I must have forgot to put it back in last time I packed this after I showed the stream, and I forgot to put it back. So, non-latex gloves, you're going to want these if you have to deal with bodily fluids, usually not your own. You don't have to wear gloves with your own bodily fluids, I wouldn't think. It's really for someone else's. Another thing I keep in here, so you can get these little bottles on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. I think you can get like an 8 or a 12 pack for, I don't know, $7. They're very cheap. And what's in here, I also buy electrolyte powder. And I think I've been using one from a company called Caged with a K. And there's about 15 or 20 servings of electrolyte powder in here. And the cap is exactly a serving size. So it kind of works out. I bought the bottle with the right size cap so I could fit a bunch of servings. So they say that you can go 3 minutes, only 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without sheltered, obviously depending on the weather. If it's extreme cold, you may not even last that long. 3 days without water, and supposedly 3 to 5 weeks without food. The problem with not having food, you're not getting electrolytes, and your energy is sapped. So if you're on the move, you're going to be expending a lot of calories, way more calories than you would normally. And you are going to be basically worthless even after a couple days without food. And also, yes, can you drink water and survive for those 3 weeks? You can, but generally speaking, without electrolytes, drinking water for 3 weeks, you probably won't live that long either. You got to get electrolytes. And I mention this every stream. You can get electrolytes from nature. You can get it from dandelion roots. You can get it from pine sap. There's a lot of other plants. So if you don't know much about foraging, you really need to learn. You need to learn all of the different vitamins and medicinal purposes of plants. There's a ton of stuff out there. God gave us nature for a reason. And there's a lot of things you can do with nature, which they did in the old days, and it's all been kind of taken out of society. We rely on the grid. We rely on basically everybody else except ourselves. We don't have to make our own food. We don't have to make our own medicine. We don't have to do... Really, we're pretty pampered, especially in the United States. So we really need to get back to the old ways where we know if something ever happened, what if there was a grid down scenario or a nuclear holocaust or something that was really crazy and no one could help you? You need to be able to help yourself. You have to have the skills to be able to take care of yourself. So I always keep one of these electrolyte powder bottles in every bag. I forgot I had this in here. This is another silky saw. I don't actually need this in here because I have the big one I put on the outside. This one is one of the Pocket Boys. Real small. Still a really good saw. Obviously, you're not going to put away big lumber with this, but you can put away some decent sized lumber with these. I'll probably just keep it in there because it doesn't seem to be taking up much space. But I really would rather the bigger silky saw. But in the summer, you're not going to... Generally speaking, you're not going to have to worry about. You could still get away with the small saw. I have some triple antibiotic ointment because the last thing I want to get is an infection when I'm out there. Let's see. I just want to go through the comments real quick before we move on. All right, so Merlin KFFK, awesome steel or titanium. I'm assuming he's talking about the flat pack stove. Sorry, Merlin, but for some reason, Streamlabs OBS does not show me the Instagram comments. I have to actually go on Instagram to see them. I don't know why. It should be syncing with everything else, but it doesn't seem to be. I'm seeing... I wonder if I'm even seeing the comments from X. No, I am, because somebody commented the other day. I'm definitely seeing Facebook, and I'm definitely seeing YouTube for sure through Streamlabs OBS. All right, next up. This is essentially I wonder if this is the T3 I talked about the other day. I don't think it is. This is by Preparedness Medical. This is basically a trauma wound dressing, or what they call an Israeli pressure dressing. Yeah, that's not the T3. The T3, if you can get a hold of the T3 on Amazon or from wherever for a bandage, it's more like a 3-piece bandage. It's almost like one of North American Rescue's Israeli pressure dressings, but it also comes with an abdominal pad, and it also comes with gauze, and they're separate. So once you open the pack, just look it up, T3 emergency bandage. It's really an amazing bandage. It's like a 3-in-1, a gauze, pad, and an Israeli pressure dressing all in one. And I believe they're actually made, I think Preparedness Medical, the T3, I think is still made in Israel, I'm pretty sure. I haven't looked them up in a really long time, but this is one of their standard 4-inch dressings. You're always going to want to have one of these dressings. And the next item up, you can go with regular S-rolled gauze or Z-fold gauze, but I prefer to have a hemostatic. So it's basically like a quick clot, but you don't want to use the quick clot granules, because they're really messy and surgeons hate them. If you just get them in there, yes, it'll clot it up, but it really makes it difficult to repair your vessels when you're in surgery trying to get stuff fixed. Your surgeon will really appreciate it if you use a hemostatic gauze. This one in particular is combat gauze. You're going to pack a wound. If you've never taken a TECC or a TCCC course, you really need to do that, because they're really amazing. You basically will go through and do the application of a tourniquet, gauze, pressure dressings, all kinds of stuff. And they do it under duress, as if you're in a real situation. So it's a really good way to train like you fight, to train under duress with your heart rate up, because in a real situation, your adrenaline's going to pump, you're going to be sweating, and that's really how you want to train. Same as if you're shooting at the range, do 20 burpees before you get behind the line and start shooting, because you're never going to be in a real situation where you're going to be able to be in an air-conditioned range. It's just not going to be like that. So, you can go to the range and get proficient and understand what you're doing, but then when you get to a certain level, you want to start training like you fight. You want to start training under duress with a high heart rate, a little bit of sweat, just to try to recreate those moments where you actually may have to do it. So anyway, this is combat gauze. They have some cheaper versions that are kind of the Survival Summit on X. Oh, that must be my moderator, Thomas. Welcome back, Thomas. He must be logged in downstairs under my account. So you can get an EMS version of hemostatic gauze, which might be a little cheaper. The combat gauze is a little bit more expensive, but it's good stuff. I also have a chest seal. This is a hyphen vent chest seal. They call it a hyphen vent because you're probably not going to be able to see it. Yeah, it's not going to be close enough. Essentially, there's vents. This one has like a 3-way vent. So if you put this over an entry or an exit wound, typically you'd have 2 of these in case you need one for the front and back, but in a pinch, if you put the one inside on say the entry, you can actually just tape the plastic from the package on the exit wound if you had to, if you don't have a second chest seal. You can buy the twin pack hyphen vent chest seals, and there's other brands too. You don't have to strictly use North American Rescue. But essentially the vent is to allow air from inside your lungs to come out, but not let air in there, because you don't want to have an issue. That's what they use decompression needles for. The decompression needles, you're going to put a certain distance down past your ribs into your lung, or you can put it under your armpit. If you put your hand under your armpit, you basically would put it under your pinky, but you need to be trained. You need to have training with how to use this gear, or you shouldn't be using it. You shouldn't even be trying it. But there are times where you have to release air from inside of a chest wound specifically, or you're going to end up dying. The other thing you can do is if you take a TCCC course, they'll teach you how to burp the wound, where you would lift the chest seal and you'd burp the wound kind of with your thumb to get the air out. It's not as effective as a decompression needle, but it can still do the job if you have to save someone's life. But again, get the training. Don't ever use any gear or do anything that you are not trained to use. It just wouldn't be a good scene. All right. I believe that's it for the medical in here. Now we can go through the main pack. So these are the Boss supplemental kits that I keep in here. Typically, you can get, fire, water, shelter, food, signaling, and land nav for probably less than $300. The only kit we don't sell is the land nav kit because the guy was having issues getting some of the compasses, and I haven't talked to him recently to find out if he's corrected that or not. Just checking Instagram comments. I think a lot of people have moved from Instagram to other platforms because the format on Instagram. I may not stream on Instagram again with the simulcast because I don't like the narrow screen. It's kind of blowing up too close and you don't really get to see enough. So it's not that great. All right. So these Boss supplemental kits. This is the shelter kit. Just so you can kind of see. Boss is for Bugout Survival Supplement. So it's essentially supplemental gear. I'm going to take out all the kits first, and then we'll go through them. This one is the Boss Water Kit. And then I have more in the back. By the way, we don't sell these packs, but this is the No Attack Gear Slinger. And I think I bought this over a decade ago, and it's made by Maxpedition. It's an excellent pack. You can still find them. You just have to Google where to get them. I don't know exactly where you get them these days because it's been so long. But it's the No Attack, Noatak, Gear Slinger by Maxpedition. And it's got a cross strap, but it also has a hook on the chest. So when you put it over one shoulder, it's not going to keep sliding around because you can hook it in the front, so it kind of keeps it steady. When I used to go out on motorcycle rides, sometimes I would take this pack because it was just, small and convenient. We also have the Fishing and Hunting Boss kit. The Fire Boss kit, which is really one of my favorites. I love the Fire Boss kit. The Navigation Boss. We'll go through all this stuff, don't worry. And the Signal Boss. The Signal Boss is really one of the holes I've found. If, sometimes people will send me an email and, hey, this is what I have in my kit. Do you think I'm missing anything? Do you think I need something? And typically, they're almost always missing either land nav gear or they're missing something for signaling. So if you get lost and you need to do some signaling, this is a really big hole in most people's survival game, and I'm not really sure why. You really need to have, and we'll go through that kit. Maybe we'll go through that kit first. This is the worst part because it's going to take me forever tomorrow to put all the stuff back in the bags. But that's all right. I've done it more than once. Again, supplemental gear. This supplemental gear is also really amazing to keep at your alternate and contingency locations as well as in buried caches because you're not going to have to spend $1,000 on a bunch of crazy stuff and have that in multiple spots. It's a lot cheaper to use supplemental gear. And most of the time, your caches are only going to be gone into if you absolutely need it or somehow you got liberated of your main pack or you lost it or whatever. Maybe it's floating down a river somewhere and you need to restock gear. Caches are usually for restocking gear or they're for restocking ammo or water or food. I like to carry the SOS emergency rations. I have some in my main bug-out bag in my truck. They're 3,600 calories. They're nice bricks. They're really good. I don't mean they taste good. They taste pretty much bland, but they're really good for energy. It's not like you don't want to survive on those long-term. You really want some long-term, like 25-year shelf life freeze-dried foods. And I think one of the best places, the best calories and bang for your buck is probably My Patriot Supply. We don't have any deals with them, but MyPatriotSupply.com is a really good company when it comes to emergency 25-year shelf life foods. And there's a lot of other research you can do. There's companies that or people that have gone out and done comparisons of the different freeze-dried food brands and shown you, price based on calories. And I think they seem, the last time I checked, My Patriot Supply was one of the best when it came to getting the best for your money. So I would definitely check them out. All right, signal kit. We're just going to kind of dump some of this crap out. I'm going to move some of this stuff so you guys can see better. We'll dump it out, and then we'll go through it. I guess I just toss it anywhere. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to have a lot of crap to clean up tomorrow. So some basic stuff, just a regular book of matches. If you really want to do it good, you would probably replace these matches with stormproof matches. It'll be a lot better. Not that, regular matches are okay. They come in a little Ziploc. But stormproof matches are really going to be better. So that would be one thing I would replace in a signal kit, would be the matches. They also have a couple glow sticks. I'm not going to take them out of the package, but there's 2 of them in here. I really should try to find a good place to put all these so I don't mix up kits. So this here is, you basically use this as a smoke canister. It's not like as big as a smoke grenade, but this will puff orange smoke, a lot of orange smoke. I tested it out before. I think it was last year, or it might have been the year before. I made a video with my son with showing off a gas mask, and we let one of these off, and there was a huge plume of smoke. You can also buy smoke canisters that are almost like smoke grenades that are much better, and I'm trying to remember the name of the company. It's not Infidel Body Armor. It's one of the body armor companies. They sell a lot of different colored smoke, but you can just Google it. There's a couple different companies that sell them, and you don't have to have any type of special license to get them, and you can get them in all kinds of different colors. So anyway, you don't want to use this unless you see aircraft or something overhead and you're trying to get their attention. You don't want to just puff off all this smoke with nobody around, because no one's going to see it. You want to make sure that somebody can see you first. It also has a permanent marker in case you need to leave a note or mark something somewhere. I think I may have mixed it up somewhere, but it also has some Write in the Rain paper. I think it was this. Yeah, I think I pulled it out. So Write in the Rain paper, if you've never used the Write in the Rain notebooks or the paper, it's waterproof paper. So nothing's going to smudge, nothing's going to disappear. Waterproof paper is pretty handy. You could draw your own topo maps with these. You can draw directions if you have to go somewhere, and you just tack it to a tree if you want someone to know where you went, and it's not going to get ruined in the rain. The next, this is essentially a signal blanket, but it's also got a reflective side, so technically you could use it as an emergency blanket if you needed to. So that's another way to get attention. If you want to put it somewhere outside where it can be seen from above, you can use the reflective side, or you can use the safety orange side. So this here is fluorescent dye powder. This would be if you see, I wouldn't do this with like a plane that's, 30,000 feet in the air. But if you see a smaller plane, or you see a helicopter or something to that effect, you would put this, and don't put it in a river because it's just going to flow down the stream too fast and no one's ever going to see it. You would put this in a pond or a body of water that's relatively calm. And this basically puts orange. I think this color is orange. Let me check. No, this one is actually brilliant fluorescent green. So if you need to get rescued and you can put this in the water, the brilliant fluorescent green will be seen from above with you down next to it going, hey, come get me. All right, hold on. I'm just going to check comments on Instagram. I really wish TikTok wasn't such a stickler, because there was over 140 people on there when I went on there earlier. And it doesn't look like the people from TikTok came over to this stream tonight for whatever reason. Maybe they're mad that I'm not streaming on TikTok anymore, so they said, hey, screw you, we're not going over there. That's possible. All right. This is some fluorescent, I'd call it string, it's not really rope. Also some fluorescent tacks. So these are going to be really handy, especially if it's nighttime, if you want to put tacks on trees or kind of along your trail, especially with a flashlight. These are really going to be bright with a flashlight at night. So if you want to leave a breadcrumb trail without actually leaving real breadcrumbs, which is obviously something you would never do, it's just like a fairy tale thing, you would use reflective tacks. You can also use reflective stickers, also comes in the kit. It also comes with a signal mirror. So these are also good for aircraft, where you can just look up how to use a signal mirror. They're pretty simple. You just get the sun to hit it in the right spot, and aim it where you need it to hit, and you can try to get someone's attention from much further away with a signal mirror. It also has some reflective ribbons. So if you want to tie ribbons on tree branches, you can do that with these. And it has chalk. The chalk is typically if you need to write a note on a rock, or, you know, especially like a big rock surface where it can be seen in much bigger writing, or if you just want to leave a note to someone that might be coming to look for you and they see the note on the rock, you know, whatever you want to put on there with an arrow that says you went somewhere else. Typically, if someone's looking for you, you really should stay in one spot. You shouldn't be trying to find your way out unless you're really good with a compass and a topo map, or you have a handheld GPS. Other than that, you probably should stay put and build a fire, and then hopefully people will find you based on the fire, as long as they know they should be looking for you if you're missing. If they're not, if you don't tell anyone where you're going, no one's going to come looking for you. So you want to make a habit of letting people know where you are, especially if you're going off grid for a little while. Just let people know where you're going to be. And, you know, tell them, if you don't hear from me by a certain day or a certain time, you know, you might want to have someone come look for me because I'm probably lost. All right, land nav. As I said, this is a pace counter. You just manually click. Survival Summit, my book is halfway published. You can see it on Amazon now. It's just not purchasable. Oh, nice. Let me know as soon as that's published. So my son, Thomas, he's 15. He wrote a book about, basically about, you know, being a teenager and about faith and about God. And that book should be published on Amazon, I think, probably tomorrow or Tuesday at the latest. It's relatively short, so it's not going to take you a million years to read it. It's about 100 pages, and I think it's about 20,000 words. And you can get it as a Kindle, or you can get it as a paperback, and Amazon will print on demand and send it right out to you. I think it's $12.95 or something like that. The Kindle's like $6 or $7. But it's a really good book, so if you have teenagers or even slightly younger than teenagers, it's a really good book about finding faith. And once the book actually comes out, I'll put a link in the bio for Survival Summit, and you guys can check it out. Thomas, if you want, put the name of the book in the chat. Just that way, if people want to check it out tomorrow, they can take a peek and read more about it. All right, this manual pace thing, I think there's something wrong with it. I'm supposed to be able to reset it, and it doesn't seem to be resetting. So, oh, there we go. Never mind. You can use something like this. Like if you're going to do, you know, 100 yards, you click and you know that's 100 yards. I like pace beads better because you can put, I don't know if I have pace beads in this kit. There might be some in the nav kit. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure there is, so I'll show you those. All right, let's dump out all the stuff from the Boss Supplemental Land Navigation Kit. There's a ton of stuff in here. All right, here are the pace beads. So there's two different sections separated by knots. The way you would use a pace bead is, let's say I walked 100 yards, I'd pull a pace bead. 200 yards, pull a second pace bead. Once you get to 1,000, pull one of the upper pace beads. That way you can go up to 5,000 yards, or you can do it in whatever increments you want based on however you want to do it. You could even do it, you know, whatever. Let's say you're burying a cache and you want to mark the location of your cache on your topo map, but if someone gets a hold of your map, you don't want them to be able to find your cache. So what you would do, and Graybeard Green Beret taught this in Green Beret's No Nonsense Bugout, a film that we produced with him originally, and in that he says, if let's say I have a landmark, either a big stone or a big tree or a very specific type of tree that I know where it is, I'll mark that on the topo map as one of my caches. But when I get to that landmark, I'm going to either walk 25 paces or 50 paces either east or west, and then I'm going to go either south or north. So basically I'm going to create an L. I'm going to go from here's where my landmark is. I'm going to go west 25 paces, north 25 paces. And every time I do a cache, I mark a landmark on my topo map, and then I do the 25 west, 25 north, or whatever other variation you want to do, but always use the same. So if someone gets a hold of your map, they're not going to find your cache because you are the only one that has it in your head that you're going west 25 paces, north 25 paces. Try not to do yardage or footage. Just go by the pacing of your actual feet, so you don't have to, you know, worry about, oh, did I actually go 15 or 25 yards? Maybe my steps were a little shorter. Just do it with your feet. You don't have to worry about it. So that's a good way to have your cache locations marked without actually having them marked. And pace beads can help you with that if you're doing like a really long zigzag when it comes to that. So what also comes in this kit, Survival Summit says, well, it's me, but my son. The book's called Called by Name, A Teen's Journey to Faith. I would definitely check that book out. It probably will be out tomorrow or the next day, but apparently it's already visible on YouTube. So you can probably go look at the cover. He made that cover himself, and it's pretty nice. So I will put... I'm going to pull that link. If I don't do it tonight, I'll have to do it when I go home from work tomorrow. But I'll put that link in Survival Summit's bio, maybe even tonight, depending on what time I get out of here. So also in the navigation kit, there are 2 plastic bags. These are essentially if you want to put your maps. Like if you got topo maps that you didn't get waterproof, or if you just want to put regular maps in some plastic, you can do that. It also comes with the original map reading and land navigation book by the U.S. Army. This has been out for quite a while, but it's a really good book that goes over land navigation, so that's part of the kit as well. It also comes with a lot of different UTM, MGRS, USNG. It goes over declination and compass row, latitude, longitude, timing, speed, distance, millimeter grid, inclinometer for slope angle, pocket magnifier. But it's got a lot of charts, so when you really get into land nav, there's a lot of charts and references you can use to make it easier to do what you need to do. It also has a little magnifying glass, because some of the topo maps can have a lot of small details, so you may need to use that. It also has some information on locating coordinate grids, information on the USGS maps. Again, if you want to get topo maps, the best place is mytopo.com. There's another site called maptools.com if you're looking for, you know, other types, but I think mytopo.com is one of the best for actual topo maps. It also has some of these Write in the Rain index cards that you can also write on without it smearing. And then a protractor. Protractor is a good part of land nav. And of course, a compass. Now again, this isn't as good as I would say the Sun 2 MC2 with the sight glass and all that, but this is a decent compass made by Brunton. This is the Brunton True Arc 3 base plate compass. It's not bad. It'll help you do what you need to do. Horse Milk 33, awesome beard. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I don't know if my wife's in the chat, but as many people that tell me it's a good beard, just I want her to hear that every time because she keeps asking me to shave it. And I keep having to disappoint her and say it's never, ever, ever going to happen. Anyway. All right, we'll go through the shelter kit. Let me just check the Instagram comments. Thomas, moderator, if you are checking those, let me know so I don't have to keep checking them. For whatever reason, the Instagram comments do not show up on... They just don't show up on the multi-stream on Streamlabs OBS for some reason. I don't know why. We did have a comment from Merlin or Shutter Smoke Grenades. I think that might be the company that I was thinking of, that Shutter. I'm not 100% sure. All right, I think that's the only comment I missed from there. All right, the shelter kit. Again, this is my spring and summer bag for the new people who came in, and it's a supplemental gear, not typically top of the line. It's kind of middle of the road. But it's cheaper, so it's easier to keep more of the supplemental gear in multiple locations, assuming you have a good pace plan, which I hope that you do. If your only plan is to stay at home if something major happens, that's a lot of people's plan, but that should be the primary in your pace. You still should have an alternate location, which could be a family member's house, a friend's house, somewhere more safe. Contingency could be the same thing. Maybe you have a cabin somewhere. Maybe you want to find a commercial campground where if something crazy happens, there's probably going to be nobody there. And the E in emergency would be if you had to go out in the woods and live out there. That should be the very, very last, drop-dead last option. That should never be, your only plan should never be just to grab your bag and disappear, because it's not going to work out the way you think. We've worked with so many different instructors that have lived with literally nothing for months at a time, and they say it sucks. So don't make that your bug out plan. Your bug out plan should be either your primary, your alternate, or your contingency. And really, in all of those, you're still bugging in once you get there. But that means you need to spread load your gear. you don't want to have all of your freeze-dried food and all of your supplies in one location. Because what if, let's say, out of the 10 to 15,000 structures that got burned in California that are still burning now, if people had all of their stuff in one location, it's all gone. If they didn't have an alternate, they didn't have a contingency, they had no legitimate pace plan written out, rehearsed, and set up, especially with some caches, somewhere in between the middle of either your alternate or your contingency from your primary, then you'd have nothing. Or if your house was flooded out, all your gear would be gone. You just don't want to take that chance. Now, if you have to go to your alternate location and you have to pack up as much as you can from your primary, you should, because you want to have as much stuff as you can. If you get forced to leave your primary location, you should try to take as much as you can. But in some cases, you might not be able to. You may have to get out of there too quickly. You may have to move super fast and light. That's why, instead of buying some cool stuff that you wanted to buy at some point, save your money and get some gear. Get your primary, your alternate, your contingency location set up with a decent amount of stuff. And don't focus on anything else. Don't waste money. Don't buy a friggin' latte every day for 3 weeks straight or whatever. Stop going out to eat. Save your shekels and just go out and get some good gear and some good kits and set up a legitimate pace plan. And then you don't have to worry about it if something happens and you have to move to a different location. All right, so in this in the shelter kit, this is a cheaper saw by HME. I wouldn't want to use this super long term, but it'll get the job done. It'll take down some smaller firewood that you need. I would not carry this in the winter because you're going to want something bigger. Some people also like to carry a buck saw in the winter and an axe. I also keep a Halsbruck's axe. And sometime this week, I will go through my main Bugout bag setup, including all my winter supplemental gear. But tonight, it's just the summer bag, and it's mostly supplemental gear. So that saw is, it's okay. These are line tensioners for your shelter. This is 550 paracord. I like number 36 twisted tarred bank line a little bit more than paracord, but for a ridge line for a shelter or tarp, I prefer paracord. And then if you have your hooks coming off that, your loops coming off that, like Graybeard Green Beret has like a pre-set up ridge line that I think he actually sells it pre-set up. And all the loops that come off the paracord are the bank line. The bank line is great because it's a tighter knot and it's just a better setup. So it also comes with a foil mylar blanket. So the handy part about the blanket, especially in the winter, is if you need to build like a Morskansky super shelter type. You'd build your shelter, you'd put the reflective side in the back of the shelter, and then the heat from the fire reflects that down onto you. And then you could even just put regular poly in the front, kind of like making an oven. We did it in the film Winter Skills with Graybeard, and we put a thermometer outside and one inside, and it was probably 74 or 72 degrees in the shelter. It got really heated up in there with just a long fire. So the other thing comes with is some of that poly. So if you need to make that super shelter, you have the mylar. You're going to make the shelter out of wood, bushcraft style, and then you have the poly for the front. And then for the back of the shelter, a tarp. This tarp is obviously not super heavy duty, top of the line, but this will do for a short period of time. It should be okay. If you really want to get a really, really good tarp, the one I use in the winter is a full custom canvas by Tent Smith. Tent Smith is out of New Hampshire, and it's a treated canvas, so it's waterproof, and it is amazing. It's a little heavy. You could also get a lighter version, which is the oilskin tarp. They are definitely more expensive, and they're a little bit easier to catch on fire because it's an oilskin. But I like the treated canvas tarps. They're really amazing. But for this supplemental kit, this is okay. This will get the job done. Long term, maybe not so much. It also comes with some tent stakes and some zip ties. So that is the shelter kit. And again, if you have a lot of skills and you focus on training, you can build your own shelter and you don't need to worry as much about, having a lot of specialized equipment or like a tent or things like that. All right, so there's a few kits left, which works out because I probably am going to jump at 9 o'clock. I have to get up tomorrow, I think at 5. Yeah, 5 o'clock. Maybe 5:30. All right, this is the water kit. There's quite a few different things in here. There is a plunger. Let's see, what do I want to go over first? So there's a Frontier straw in here. This is a decent straw, but this is really good for, you know, I'd boil my water pretty much no matter what, but these straws are decent. They're not bad. They'll remove, you know, giardia and stuff like that. They're not bad. These Frontier straws by Aquamir are decent, but I would not call them top of the line. It also comes with a small metal bowl. You could boil water in here, but it's very small. That's why even in the supplemental gear, I like to keep that Pathfinder stainless steel bottle and cup set for all my water boiling. But this wafer you can put out in the morning to get dew, and it'll actually give you quite a bit of dew. So you can get water that way. These are the little mini towels that expand without having to carry big towels. These expand a lot bigger than you would think. They come in handy. You can also soak some water up in those. Comes with some tin foil. It also comes with these coffee filters, so you can make your water a little more clean before you either boil it or before you use your filter. Activated charcoal, which you can also use to purify water. And it also comes with aqua tabs. These little aqua tabs, I don't really like using aqua tabs or any other type of basically the pill to clean your water, because you have to let it sit for like a half an hour. It doesn't taste good. It's just, I don't like it. I don't like using them, so I don't use them. I'll either boil or I'll use a filter. It's also got this little kind of a canvas bag that you can also filter some water through. If you want to do transpiration bags to do, you know, harness the power of the sun to make water from greenery, you can do that. I believe these are the bags you would use for that. And this is a sheet of plastic. So this is something where you dig the hole in the ground, you would put the cup in the middle, you'd put this over the top, put a bunch of fresh, non-toxic greenery from trees or flowers or plants or whatever, and then put the plastic over the top of the hole, weight it down, put a rock in the middle, so when the condensation builds on the plastic from the greenery and the sun, it'll all go to the center and drip down into the cup. But these are all skills that you really need to learn about. Also this, so in one of the other streams, someone's like, well, what the hell is that for? This is if you need to get to water. Let's say you're in Utah or you're somewhere where there's water, but it's through some cave crevices or areas that you can't get your cup to and you just can't get your filter and your straw to. You can use this straw to get that water. So that is the water kit. That's the Boss Water Supplemental Kit. Next, I'm going to save the best for last. The best is the fire kit. I really, really love the fire kit. But we're going to go over the fishing and hunting kit first. And there is a lot of little pieces in here. I think because the camera's back so far, the best place to see these is probably on Instagram, because it's a much more blown up shot of the stream. Anyway, all right, let me just dump all this stuff out. It's got some instructions on here, how to make snares, how to make a couple different other types of traps. That's also on Right in the Rain paper, so it will not smudge, and you'll still be able to read it even in bad weather. All right, so we'll kind of systematically go through. It has a little multi-tool in here, but it's not, obviously it's not a good one. It's just kind of, I'd use this more for the fishing, you know, for getting hooks out of the fish's mouth and things like that. I carry a normal multi-tool on my belt. I carry the Gerber. This is the Gerber Centerline, I think it's called. I bought this, I think back in 2016 when it first came out, and it's served me well. I really like it a lot. It even got a screwdriver tip in there, a knife, and a bunch of other features. The other thing I carry for EDC, obviously other than self-defense, would be a flashlight. This is the Nikkor MH12 GTS. This one is 2,000 lumens. It's a really, really nice flashlight with a rechargeable battery. You can recharge it right in the flashlight. You don't have to take the battery out and get a separate charger. Most of the newer Nicors are like that. You can charge them right through the body of the battery. Or Phoenix. Phoenix is a good brand. Streamlights is a good brand. There's a lot of good brands. All right, so that was the little multi-tool. Snare wire. So if you want to make snares, you got some snare wire in this kit. It also has this yo-yo fishing line. I kind of wish it had more than one, but this is a passive way to fish. You would hook this to either a tree branch or around whatever you want, preferably, you know, kind of on an angle up high. You'd put your hook in your bait. You'd pull it out. When the fish bite it, it'll self-retract. So it'll retract itself back up. And if the fish is a lot heavier, it's probably not going to pull the fish all the way out of the water if you get like a big bass or something. But you'll know that you caught one. So these yo-yos are pretty handy. It also comes with some bobbers. And of course, fishing line. Yes, could you take a packable rod? You could take a packable rod with you, but you don't always need to. I mean, you can, especially if you're in a smaller pond, you can make a fishing pole out of a stick. You're just not going to be able to cast like you would normally if you're out fishing. Don't get me wrong, if you want to carry a packable rod, it's going to be a lot easier and a lot better. But comes with plenty of fishing line. This is 8-pound line. It also comes with, I want to say there was 50, I think this is the 50-pound line. It's either 30-pound line or 50-pound line. I think it says it on the package. Yeah, it's 50-pound test. So this is 50-pound test line, so you can also use that. I'm sure you guys have all seen these. This is what you would stick through the fish's gills in the mouth. And if you want to put a bunch of fish on here and keep them fresh in the water while you're still fishing, this is what you would do. Just put the little ring around a stick. I don't think I've ever met anyone who hasn't seen these or used these when they were a kid when they were fishing. There's some more line in here. So this is kind of, I've never used this, but these are basically ball bearings and a slingshot. There are some people that are really amazing with slingshots when it comes to like squirrels and stuff. So if you're really good with a slingshot, it also has a slingshot in here. It has some little rubber bait. These probably aren't the best, but they'll work in a pinch. It also comes with some of the stinky bait. I've had this kit for a while and you can still smell it. These are probably going to be better for catfish. And it also has a bunch of swivels and safety pins and a razor blade inside this package. Some zip ties. And a whole bunch of hooks. Hooks and swivels of different sizes. Most of these hooks are going to be for, you know, small to mid-sized fish. So you're not going to go out and catch some monster, but you're going to be able to catch a ton of fish with these decent medium-sized hooks. So that is the Fishing and Hunting Boss kit. All I keep thinking about is having to put all this crap back tomorrow. It's going to be a nightmare. I might not. You might see all this crap laying out in tomorrow's stream. Who knows? Because this is the summer kit. I don't need this till next year anyway. But I can't be lazy. I got to put it away. All right. So the fire kit. It's one of my favorites. Now, like I said, I love the Uberleben crafted ferro rods. They're amazing. So even with this awesome fire kit, I'm still going to carry my Craftig no matter what. And I usually wear cargo pants in the winter, pretty much all year I wear them. But in the winter, they come in handy. And I load them up with a bunch of fire gear and some shelter stuff. And I use suspenders to help so that my pants don't sag. So if you're ever looking to, especially if you work somewhere where you can't really bring your bag inside, you want to have a lot of stuff. Like I have a ferro rod in my pocket. I also have stormproof matches. I have a bunch of different things that I keep on me in case somehow I don't make it back to my Bugout bag in my vehicle or something else happens. Just another way to do your pace plan to make sure you have backup gear. All right, I'm going to dump all this stuff out. So the one thing I noticed is that one of the items in here, when it's in the summertime and you're keeping the kit in your vehicle, these beeswax candles are going to melt a little bit. So it's the only flaw in this kit when you're carrying it when it's really hot out is the beeswax candles are going to melt. There's still plenty of candle on there, but it's kind of melted together a little bit. They'll still be okay, but they're not, you know, they just get too hot and it becomes a problem. They also have stormproof matches in here. or these aren't technically stormproof matches. These are UCO waterproof matches. Not quite as good as like the Titan stormproof matches, but these waterproof matches are excellent. They're better than regular matches by a long shot. It also comes with steel wool. So steel wool, why? Because you can use a battery and start a fire with steel wool. Check out some YouTube videos. It's really easy to do, especially with a 9-volt battery. It also has a razor blade that you can fold back in here. The razor blade can be used. These are fatwood shavings. Some people call it lighter knot. This is basically pine resin sticks. Pine resin you can find in the forest if there's a dead pine tree. Usually it works its way into the stump. So you can find a lot of fat wood in the stump, or you can also find fat wood where the branches meet the trunk, because it kind of, when the tree dies, all that pine sap settles in from where they meet, where the branches meet the trunk, but most of it is typically in the stump. So if you find fat wood, you'll know it's fat wood because it'll have like an orange, a little bit of an orange to it, and it'll smell like pine sol, and it smells really good. So you can scrape shavings off here to use to start a fire easier. It also comes with this little pencil sharpener. So not only can you use the fat wood sticks to make shavings with a little pencil sharpener, but you can also make shavings of regular, twigs and sticks using the pencil sharpener to get you some finer tinder for your tinder bundle. It comes with wet fire. This is basically like a fire starting tinder. It comes with a Fresnel lens. If those of you who are not familiar with a Fresnel lens or Fresnel lens, you can start a fire with these using the sun. They're pretty handy for that. And there's no fluid, nothing to worry about. So if you have a good enough sun out, you can just use this to start a fire and save your matches, save your lighter fluid, and just use the power of the sun. It's another way to not use up your gear if you don't have to. These are tinder tabs. They're not as good as the tinder tabs that I like to use, but they're pretty decent. They're basically treated, and you can break them up, and break them open, and use them to start multiple fires just with the 6 that are in here. Comes with some tin foil. It also comes with some instructions that go over some of the items in here if you're not 100% sure what they are. I may have lost those. No, I didn't. They're written on Right in the Rain paper. Oh, that's the signal boss. It must have got mixed in here last time I put it all together. So one of the items that's in here that I'm not really a fan of, and I would only use it in a pinch if I really had no choice, is the handsaw. This is basically like one of those saws that you put your finger in each one and you use it like this. It's not the greatest, but it'll work. It's probably not going to work for very long, depending on what you're trying to cut with it. That's why I like to carry the Silky saw, because it's amazing. But this, I would consider a little backup saw. But don't be disappointed when you use it like 5, 6, 7, 8 times and then it breaks, or it doesn't cut very well. It's not the greatest. The other thing in here is char cloth. So char cloth is basically charred cotton. I thought I had a tin, but I don't know what the heck I did with it. It might be somewhere it's definitely in the truck with my other kit, but I thought I had one in this bag. So if you want char cloth you could basically light a little fire and start an ember to get in your tinder bundle with char cloth really easy. You could use flint and steel, or you could use a ferro rod, and it's much easier to do. And you can make your own char cloth. If you have like an Altoids tin, and most of the Altoids tin have the little mini feet, so when you flip the lever down, there is a gap, so you don't actually need to put a hole in the top of it, which a lot of people do. You don't need to do that. You would take any piece of 100% cotton, put it in the tin, close it, put it on your fire, leave it on there until the smoke stops coming out of the tin, and then pull it off the fire, let it sit for at least 15 minutes. If you open it right away to check it, you'll be introducing oxygen to your char cloth, and it'll just catch fire, and then you'll have to start all over. So once it stops smoking, pull it out of the fire, let it cool off for 15, 20 minutes, and you'll have your own char cloth that you can use. And it's really simple to make, and it's really awesome. So if you don't have any 100% cotton, throw in a 100% cotton t-shirt or an old pair of jeans, cut it up and put that in your Bugout bag, and have an Altoids tin, and you can make a crap load of char cloth anytime you want. This is, of course, a ferro rod. Now, I say it all the time. For the people that are new that have never used a ferro rod, this one's new. There's a black coating on it. if you try to use, which you'll have to undo this to use a scraper. If you try to use it before you scrape the black coating off, you're not going to get any sparks. Every once in a great while, a new customer will email and say, "Hey, this ferro rod doesn't even work." And the first thing I ask him is, "Did you scrape off the protective coating?" Because if you didn't scrape it and you're not seeing silver, it's not going to work until you get through that layer. So always keep that in mind if you're new to prepping or you're new to survival and preparedness. You don't have to scrape the whole rod. Just scrape the one surface that you're going to use, and then as you move along, when the rod gets smaller and smaller, scrape off the coating everywhere else. It also comes with this, like a little bearing. This is for, oh, I'm sorry, I missed this line. The small line was the 50-pound test. This was the 50-pound test. This line is actually for the string to make a bow drill with, and this is the bearing to do it. In some of the videos we have instructional films on Survival Summit, Graybearded Green Beret teaches you how to make a bow drill set, so you'll kind of understand what these bearings are for when you make a bow drill set. It also comes with jute twine. Jute twine is really good because this one's a little bit thinner. I have some thicker jute twine in one of my other kits, but you basically can take this apart little by little and create your own actual bird's nest that really becomes fine tinder, and it's much easier to get your fire started. And it comes with there's probably 20 feet of jute cord in there, and you can make a good amount of bird's nests with just this amount of jute. This is Kevlar cord, so you can use this Kevlar cord. You could probably use this on your bow drill set as well. There's a lot of uses for Kevlar. It's excellent. You can even put loops in the end and do the bicycle and get out of, heavy-duty police zip ties or duct tape or rope. You can learn all about how to use Kevlar and paracord to escape restraints in our video, Survival, Escape, and Evasion. We made that film with starring Jack Richland from Black Scout Survival back in 2015, and it's still one of the top sellers. So the last but not least on the fire kit, magnesium. So this is basically scraped magnesium, which I want to say burns at like 5,000 degrees. It helps get your fire started much quicker. So the gentleman who put these kits together took the time to scrape a crap load of magnesium, and he put them in 6 of these capsules. So there's plenty of magnesium in these capsules, and it'll even tell you on the back, basic instructions. Break open, pour powder on tinder, light with any available source. There was a lighter in this fire kit. I don't know what happened to it. It was a small Bic. I didn't see it. I must have lost it last time I showed this kit. I keep losing stuff every time I go through these damn kits. What are you going to do? So anyway, those are the Boss supplemental kits, and they're really, really, really handy, and they're really cheap, especially if you want to set up caches or you want to set up supplemental gear in other locations. Because chances are, if your primary is already pretty rural and you have people with you that can help with security and you already have a really good stockpile of food, as long as there's no people or riots or natural disaster that drives you out, you can be a little lighter in your alternate and contingency locations with something like the Boss gear, because you're going to spend 75% less money with the supplemental gear. And you may never even need to use the supplemental gear, but it's going to be really good to know that you have it. All right, I'm going to go back and check Instagram for comments. Don't see much on there. I'm just going to flip through. So again, Twitter, for whatever reason, it's our smallest platform, but we have 21 people from Twitter alone. In this stream, we only have 1 on Facebook. Facebook's been really bad for this live stream so far. I'm not sure why. And YouTube, it looks like we have 14. Someday, maybe I'll be able to get some of the people from the TikTok stream, because like I said, I went on TikTok just to tell people that I'd be here tonight, and there was like between 70 and 140 people initially. And usually that stream it runs an average of like 50. This stream is like 30, 31. So it's similar, but it's all the platforms combined. So I think we're going to need to put in a lot more time and have everybody who's on this stream, let your friends know about this stream. Also, if you want to watch the last stream, which was a ton of information, you can go back and watch it on all the platforms, because that live, when these lives are finished, you can watch them again. They still live on all the social media platforms. So if I'm going to be doing these every day, I'm not going to be showing gear every day unless you guys specifically want to see something or talk about something. And I think when I do the main bug out bag with winter supplemental gear, that's probably going to be like a 3-part live. So maybe we'll pick like 3 days during this week and we'll go through everything. But, you know, I like to talk about it. I like to go through questions and comments, and I really like to go into a lot of specifics about why I have certain things in the kit, you know, what some of the better alternatives are, and that takes a lot of time. And most of the streams, at least during the week, are going to be usually from 7 to 9, so they're going to run about 2 hours, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 9, because I have to get up at like 5, so I don't want to stay up later than 9. So we'll probably have to break out the main bug out bag stream into maybe 2 or 3 streams. I mean, I suppose I could go through it quickly, but generally speaking, a lot of this is going to be coming on and doing a lot of Q&A, doing a lot of interaction, talking about things that are happening in the news, things that already happened, you know, things to look out for. And really, I want this channel to get big enough so that we all start talking to each other and we can start creating communities and groups in our own separate states and in our own separate cities, wherever we may be. So the bigger we can grow this community, the more people you can get to come here, the more people you're going to share with, the bigger this community will get. And I will at some point go back and get more active on my Discord channel that Survival Summit has. And at some point, after streams, we'll jump in Discord, and then you guys can actually really talk to each other in there without having to do it on a live stream as well. Again, Emergency Home Preparedness, a book E.J. Snyder and I collaborated on and wrote together, is available. Link is in the bio. It's real cheap right now. I think it's $13.49 for the book, so it's a pretty good deal. The film is a little more expensive on the website, Ultimate Bugging and Home Defense. It's an almost 3.5-hour film, and it's got a lot of information on it. That one usually sells, I think, for $99.99. But if you use the cheat code, if you use the coupon code TSSBUGIN, you can save 50% on that film. That sale's probably going to run for about another week, and the only place I've told anyone about it is the live streams. Tahoe Blazer gear options are good to see. I have kits in each vehicle. Each one is geared for my family of 3. Gets a little bulky sometimes. Yeah, it can definitely get bulky. That's one of the main reasons why in the winter especially, my kit is really bulky. I keep it in an ice fishing sled. And I put a separate longer cord like a bungee so I can pull it easier. I can put the cord up on my chest or on my midsection, and I can kind of walk, and I can even clip it if I have to, and I can walk carrying that ice fishing sled so I don't have to carry it by hand. But it comes in handy because I have a lot of different things for the winter. And in the winter, it's unfortunate, but it's really going to be hard to avoid carrying a lot heavier of a pack because you're going to want a wool blanket. I have a Whoopee in there. You don't really need to have one, but I like it just as an extra. I also have a reflective kind of a homemade tent. I can't remember the brand, but you'll see it eventually. And then I also have that Tent Smith's canvas, waterproof canvas tarp. And I have a couple other smaller reflectives. I have a lot of good stuff in there. I have a Snug Pack SF Bivy. So, and I did have, this is embarrassing, but I can't find it. I thought I had the whole system at one point of the Snug Pack SF sleep system, but apparently I didn't. I had one of the really good sleeping bags, but I don't know. I don't know what happened to the other part of it. But anyway, I don't even know where it is. I went looking for it, and I can't find it. I can't find that. I can't find some of my ham radios that somebody sent me that I still need to learn more about. But there's just so much crap. There's so much gear. Sometimes I'm not doing a very good job keeping track of it. So don't be like me. Keep better track of your stuff. And that's a good point, too. If you have, if you're married and you have different vehicles, your wife really needs to have her own bug out bag. Your children should have their own bug out bag. I mean, obviously, depending on the age, if they're 2, you're not going to give them a bug out bag because they're not going to be able to carry it. But more important than anything else, I always say it, training. If you buy $500 worth of gear, you need to have 5-10 times that much in training. I don't mean money-wise. If you don't want to do live training, you could do online training. Watch a bunch of stuff, then go out and practice. Watch another chapter, go out and practice till you get really good. Do it in the rain, do it in the snow. Once you get proficient, start making it more difficult to see how far you can push yourself. Because everyone's like, oh, I'll just take a big lighter and light a fire. It's easy. Yeah, it might be easy in certain circumstances, but if you're not familiar with collecting the right kind of fine tinder before you start putting sticks together in the wintertime with 3 feet of snow on the ground, if you're not familiar with the trees, the type of trees you would scrape to get that fine tinder, like yellow birch, cedar, there's a lot of different trees, or even white birch. If you're not familiar with a lot of that stuff and you don't know how to make a proper tinder bundle, once you get a little wind, a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow, it's not going to be that easy. And remember, in the winter, you have no more dexterity. You're either going to have gloves that are bulky, so it's going to be more difficult, or you're going to have to take your gloves off, and then your hands are going to start to get really cold, and your dexterity is going to be garbage. So, yes, can anyone go out and start a fire in their backyard? Yeah, probably, most people. But can you do it under bad conditions? Can you do it with a really good tinder bundle without having to use, newspaper or anything like that? A lot of people, believe it or not, can't do it. And they definitely can't do it under certain conditions that aren't even that bad. And don't get me wrong, when it comes to pace planning, the lighter should be your primary because it's the easiest. The alternate should be stormproof matches or some other type of match. The contingency probably should be a ferro rod. The emergency would be your bow drill set. It takes a lot of work and a lot of calories to get a bow drill fire going, but it essentially turns into, when you make a bow drill and you start a fire with a bow drill or like a plow, it essentially makes like its own little char circle that you have to keep going and then put it in your tinder bundle. If you put a spark and you get a really good coal, it'll kind of look like the end of a cigarette. It'll be nice and like a nice little round coal. You have to keep that lit and then get it in a good tinder bundle. If you put that in a tinder bundle that sucks, you're not going to like that tinder bundle. But if you do it with a really fine tinder bundle, trying to do it like a bird makes a bird's nest, you put that right in the middle, blow it, and then it'll light that whole tinder bundle up. But you need to know how to find those materials. Another thing I mentioned yesterday is the app on your phone called Picture This. It's an app, I think it's like $20 a year, but you can take a picture of any tree, flower, bush, even grass, and it'll scan it and tell you exactly what it is. So if you want to learn foraging, but you don't want to take a bunch of books out in the forest, use the app. Go look at plants, go look at trees, and say, all right, I see that tree all the time. What exactly is that? Boom, scan it with your phone. It'll tell you exactly what it is. And it'll give you a ton of information about that tree on there as well. And even for gardening, it'll tell you if your plant is sick and how you can get it back to health just on the app. But you find some berries in the woods, you're like, man, I don't know. Can I eat those berries? Are they safe? Boom, take a picture, scan it. It'll tell you exactly what kind of berries they are and whether or not they're poisonous. Think maybe there's some poison ivy. Boom. The app is awesome. And for like $19.99 a year, you can't go wrong. It's a really good way to teach yourself about all the plants in your general area, in my opinion. All right, let me jump back just to check IG. Mama JN Heavy D says, I use Picture This all the time. Yeah, it's awesome. I love that app. It's really, really amazing. Merlin says, how do you feel about pen rods? I don't know what you mean by pen rod. Why on Instagram? Does it look like, the video on Instagram looks like it's blurry a little bit. Like it's not quite focusing that well. But it looks better on YouTube. Very strange. Oh, well. Yeah, I'm not sure why that happens, to be honest. Still TikTok. The TikTok is literally our smallest following on any platform by far. And there's 22 viewers on I'm sorry, did I say TikTok? I meant Twitter. If I said TikTok, I meant Twitter or X. There's 22 people on X. There was like 30 people on X last night, and we only have 1,500 followers on there. Second night in a row for X for the win. Facebook, we have 136,000 on Facebook, and there's only one person right now watching on Facebook. And then a bunch of you on YouTube as well. So it appears that I was not able to get the TikTok audience to come over here to any of these other platforms. I guess they just want to stay on TikTok, so. But I'm still going to go on there every day for 5 or 10 minutes and remind them, hey, by the way, we're streaming on the all the other socials, so you should come over. We'll see what happens. All right. If no one else has any questions or you want to go over anything else that we talked about, let me know in the comments if you do. Otherwise, I'm going to jump in a few minutes. Got to get up pretty early tomorrow, but I will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. By the time I get back, it could be closer to 8. It depends, because tomorrow I have to go to the grocery store and pick up some supplies for the next 2 weeks, and I still have to put all this crap away. So hopefully it'll be 7, but it could be closer to 7:30 or 8, depending on how long it takes me. And not only do I have to grocery shop, I actually have to make a bunch of food for the next few days as well. I have no wife up here, so I have to make all my own stuff. But it's always the same stuff. I basically, right now, all I eat is grass-fed beef and eggs from the chickens at my house, and apples, oranges, and bananas and avocados in the morning. So that's pretty much all I eat. Take vitamins. I do take protein. I have protein at night. All right. So I think I'm going to wrap it up, but hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. And we can go over a whole bunch of stuff tomorrow, and then I'll try to plan for maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll start going through the main bug out bag, but we're probably going to do it, like I said, over, a 2 or 3 night period just to kind of get through everything. All right. Until then, I will see you guys